Well, good morning, everyone. You're listening to Caregiver Crossing. We are a podcast that's brought to you by Joy's House. We are so blessed and thrilled that you're here. And we're a podcast that was made and created just for you, the caregiver. I'm Tina McIntosh.
I'm Terry Stacy, and we're here every week with experts from all over the country, providing comfort and resources, and we think a lot of joy to our caregivers. The podcast serves to embrace family caregivers of today and also tomorrow. So thank you all so much for being here. Tina, heat-related deaths and illnesses are preventable. I know that for sure, don't you?
For sure. And I'm only giggling because, we talk about, we're here with experts from across the country, and today you're stuck with Terry and me. This is something we know a lot about. Terry, I know in all your years of being on radio and in the community, you hear about these heat-related deaths and illnesses, and unfortunately have had to report on them. And it is, you're right, completely preventable. I didn't know the statistics, and so stay with me for a minute because this is staggering to me. There's this big time span of 1979 to 2003. So we're talking, decades. Excessive heat exposure caused over 8,000 deaths in the United States. During that period, more people in our country died from extreme heat than from hurricanes, lightning, tornadoes, floods, and earthquakes combined. So more people from heat exposure and excessive heat died than all of those things combined. And in 2001 alone, 300 deaths were caused by excessive heat exposure. And you're right, it's just something that most of the time we can avoid. And we're talking about it today on Caregiver Crossing because as caregivers, you play an especially important role in preventing these illnesses in the adults that you care for. So we're going to dive right in. Terry, I'm going to start with a quiz for you. What is the temperature change that will add stress to your body?
I would think that any sudden temperature change would be any sudden change in your temperature is going to be very stressful to your body, right?
Yeah,
and right now, right. And in this summertime, we have had, most of the country has been under some sort of dealing with temperatures in the hundreds, truly in the hundreds. We've here locally, central Indiana, we've dealt with it for multiple days since June, almost, and even in the late May, we've had some terrible temperatures. And so any sudden change, whether it's cold or hot, I think is going to be incredibly stressful to your body, right?
Yeah, you're right. You pass, you get 100% on the quiz. And so what we talk about is, who is most affected by the heat change? People 65 years and older, they usually, and the term is may not compensate for heat stress efficiently, but really a lot of it has to do with either they don't notice or they can't communicate. I can tell you at Joy's House as an adult day service, we really monitor people when they're outside, particularly in this warmer weather that we have. And a lot of our folks just can't communicate. So we make sure they're drinking. We try to get them in the shade. We try to make sure they come inside, all the things. But when somebody can't tell you what's going on with their body, it's really, really hard. And then as someone who has gained quite an amount of weight in the last, 10 years due to menopause and cancer and all the overeating, all the things, I can tell you that those of us who are larger retain heat like crazy, but we don't always know it's happening. I'm hotter at this point in my life than I've ever been, and it's not just the heat flashes.
Yeah. That's that heat inside of you. That's that furnace inside of you that you can't.
Dear God, that's a whole other podcast and therapy session right there. But it's true. And so there is a recommendation that you visit adults. And I can't find my notes here, Terry, but do you remember adults who are at risk, how often you should visit them and look for those signs of heat exhaustion or stroke?
I think you should do it every time you think about it, but at least a couple of times a day. And if you have a father like I have that has had some heart disease with a stent and after a heart attack, they are also prone to heat affecting their heart. That's extra stress on their heart. So if you may be thinking, well, and that can be somebody that's not necessarily an older adult. That can be a person of, 50 years old that's had a stent in their heart, and we're hearing those younger numbers now. They're especially also prone to heat exhaustion, heat stroke, and that because of that extra added stress on their heart. So yeah, I think a couple times at least, right? To go visit, to go check on someone.
Agreed. And you mentioned, you said heat exhaustion, you also said heat stroke. And I think sometimes we forget that those are two different things.
They are.
But the signs of heat exhaustion, I have to tell you, like, who hasn't been hot before and had these signs of heat exhaustion, which are things like heavy sweating, paleness, muscle cramps, tiredness, weakness, dizziness, headache, nausea or vomiting, fainting, or feeling like you're going to faint. Like, I feel like every time I work in the yard and it's 80 degrees outside, I have some of those symptoms. I mean,
yeah. Well, even athletes, if you've got you're in that sandwich generation, you've got mom and dad you're caring for, and you're also raising kids that are in band camp right now, or that they are, that they are getting ready for fall football, or any of those. Those in the news. You'll hear from time to time that one of those young athletes has also been put to the side and has been reported to be diagnosed with heat exhaustion. So yeah, it can happen to anybody, but those are definite signs, right?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You mentioned the kid thing, like how many parents I know that would get upset because their child was set aside from being camp sports and be like, they're just kids and they're out in the heat. But you're exactly right. And so the signs of heat stroke are what, Terry?
The signs of heat stroke, they may vary, but include the following: an extremely high body temperature above 103 degrees Fahrenheit, red, hot, and dry skin. And here's what's interesting: there's no sweating. When you're not sweating, your body's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. It's not cooling itself. That's what sweating does, is cooling your body, regulating your temperature. So yeah, no sweating, but certainly rapid, strong pulse, throbbing headache. That's another sign. Dizziness, nausea, confusion, unconsciousness. Again, it doesn't have to be all these symptoms, but even one or two of them, you might want to just take that next step and get some help.
All right, so let's talk about tips for a heat wave. The first one is stay hydrated. I feel like this and exercise are like the answers to everything in the world. Eat well, drink lots of water, and exercise. But anyway, but stay hydrated. In this part, I remember hearing this just probably a couple of years ago, that the Mayo Clinic recommends about 15.5 cups of fluids a day for men and about 11.5 cups of fluid a day for women on average. That is a lot of trips to the restroom. I mean, really, people say like, I just can't get up and go to the bathroom that much, but when there's a heat wave, you've got to stay hydrated. And another way somebody put it once, and I believe it's here in these Mayo notes as well, is that you're supposed to drink between half an ounce and an ounce of water for each pound that you weigh.
Oh, wow. Sounds
if
like
you weigh 150, doesn't it though? If you weigh 150 pounds, you're supposed to drink between 75 and 150 ounces of water every day.
Well, your urine is supposed to be clear. And if you think about it, when was the last time your urine was clear, right? It's always a little bit of a color. Yes. But it should always be clear. So that's how you know you're getting enough water. How about that, and Dr. Terry?
And I think that's really good. I mean, we talked about poop recently. Why not talk about urine? Everybody does it. But I know from the work that I do, at Joy's house, and how many people that we are helping to toilet on, on a daily basis. Clear is not a common sight. So during a heat wave, there are other tips that we have for you. Terry, you take these next couple ones and I'll jump in at some point.
This is kind of an interesting one, because a lot of I love ice cold water. When you're having your ice cold tea right now, but I like a lot of ice. I want it as cold as I can get it. But they say, experts say, beware drinking iced water when you're very hot, because that can shock your system and cause you some stomach pain, some constipation, especially if you drink it too fast. And I think we are all guilty of doing this. I did not know about this. Drinking ice cold water should be probably more, I mean, a little more tepid, I guess, or it can shock your system.
And I hear too often, you don't need to chug it. Like you spread this out over the day, which I realize just sitting there, drinking your water all day long. But if there's a heat wave, you should do it. What about this one? I know that you and I don't like this one. Avoid any carbonated or caffeinated beverages. Are you kidding me? If it's hot out, do it.
I know, beer, when we go out to, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you all go to a race or a baseball game or whatever, and you're boiling hot. But what do you want? You want a beer. You want something like that with alcohol. Again, you're supposed to, the doctors at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it seems to be always said, for every beer you drink a glass of water, 8 ounces of water. But make sure you're drinking both at the same time. Not to
do recognize that your beer does not count as your hydration. Water is the hydration when we say that. There are other things they say to do too. Eating foods with high water content, so like watermelon, cucumber, grapes. I would just add as a side note, making sure that if you're diabetic, you're careful about your sugar intake. I mean, there are other things to consider too, but replacing your salt and minerals that are lost through sweat. So should be done with the food that you eat, but there are also those electrolyte infused drinks like Gatorade that can help too. And then a couple more, and then I know we're going to have to go. I'm looking at the time. It's
and just a couple of other things you might want to think about right now during these hot summer months. Take advantage of those early mornings when it's coolest in the morning and the evenings, especially if you're caregiving for a senior that still want to get them out of the house, maybe those early mornings, just some things that you probably already know. Common sense. Make sure to also open the blinds and make sure, because we've all thought, and we do, you're right, closing the house up makes it cooler with the blinds closed and everything, but you still need to let a natural light into your home, because our bodies need cues from sunlight to regulate our circadian rhythms. So make sure you keep some blinds open too. And I guess that's all I have to contribute to this conversation, other than we've all felt a little dizzy or something in the heat, and it could be as simple as just drinking some water, making sure you're getting those fluids in.
Yeah, well, Terry goes to take a bathroom break from all of the water she's had. We are going to close the show for today. We want to remind you that you can contact me via email, tina@joyshouse.org. And then we definitely want to thank our friends and supporters at AARP. They are leading a revolution in the way people view and live life after 50. And we love that they are working to empower people to choose how they live their lives as they age. So we'll see you next time here in Caregiver Crossing. Until next time, take good care of each other. And on behalf of Terry and myself, we'll see you next week.